grab me a beer and grab him a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brandon T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. For those of you new to the show, I'll tell you what it's all about. One of my favorite things to do in my past life was to hang out with a friend, get messed up, and talk about life, dreams, goals, and share crazy stories. Basically, be an awesome drinking buddy. I am now on day 951 of being clean and sober, hence the X in the title. But I still love the conversation that comes with being a drinking buddy. And that is, in essence, what this podcast is all about. Every once in a while, I will do a solo show, but normally I will have a guest. And today, I have the pleasure, nay, the privilege of being joined by a good friend of mine, a very funny comedian from Jacksonville, Florida, and our go-to on political conspiracy theories, Trevor Johnson. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Not much. Go ahead, plug everything up top, social media, any dates you have coming up, anything like that you want to tell the listeners about.
I have no dates to plug because I'm an unsuccessful open mic comedian going on 7 years, and COVID hit while I was going to take a break anyways. But if you want to see me talk shit about the Jaguars and every once in a while accuse somebody of being a pedophile in Hollywood, you can follow me at Trevor Johnson. That's just my Twitter handle. It's the Trevor Johnson, but the T and the J are switched. Right. I think right now it's my handle is a misspelled mission accomplished because the tank is complete, baby. Trevor Lawrence gets to join me in Jacksonville as the other Trevor.
Yeah, that's true. He will be the other. And you guys grow a similar mustache.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know.
Oh, yeah, that clip was great. Yeah. The reporter was on a hot mic, and he was like, look at this dude's mustache. And he's just like, thanks, man.
I saw an interview with him today getting ready for the Heisman, and he was like, they were like, oh, you didn't shave your mustache. He goes, no, I know a lot of people talk a lot of trash about me, but I'm not shaving it. And I was like, good for you, man.
Yeah, for sure. And so this was like a point. I was at work today. I work in a restaurant, and the dudes in the back were talking about like, yeah, just like bowl season and shit. And they were talking about Trevor Lawrence. And I was like, you know, that dude's a bad man because he has bitch made hair, but he's like refuses to cut it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he has like Blaine Gabbert 2010 hair, and he refuses to advance to like Blaine Gabbert 2014 hair.
You are a huge Jags fan.
I am. It's unfortunate. Well, now it's great. It's fucking awesome.
Now it's awesome. Now it's fantastic.
Before we ruin him and he tears both ACLs and like.
Why do you say such horrible things?
You remember when we got Jalen Ramsey and it's like hell yeah, and then he tore his meniscus in camp, and then we were like, oh bummer, and it was like I can't remember if Dante Fowler was first, but like we were so high for Dante Fowler. He wore that sweet ass red jacket at the draft, and then he tore his ACL in camp, and it was just like, so you just come to Jacksonville and your cartilage just explodes on contact with the soil of Jacksonville.
As soon as you land in Jacksonville.
Oh, for sure, it's done.
So you said you've been doing comedy 7 years now.
Yeah, basically.
When did you started in Jacksonville?
Yeah, no, I've always lived here. And
okay. You grew up here then?
Oh yeah, no, I grew up on the west side. Go Cedar Hills, baby. But yeah, no, I started really kind of out of nowhere. Like I was training for a job that I still work at. Like it's like a restaurant. I go off, do my thing, and then I come back usually. Yeah. Because the money's too fucking good. You know what I mean?
Oh, trust me, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, for sure. But I was like training at work, and then I went over to Rain Dogs, and on Mondays it used to be $1 Bud Lights, which is what I'm currently drinking in front of your alcoholic ass, which is very very considerate of me. I
actually encourage people to drink on the show.
Thank you.
Because it makes the show more fun.
Even if you were like, I don't know, I'd be like, well, I mean, yeah, maybe.
I got it. Yeah. But it makes
I
the show
forgot.
I had it's weird though, because you're not the first person to bring their own alcohol, because everyone's like, oh, you're sober. I'm like, yeah, but I host a show called Ex-Drinking Buddy, so like I'll have alcohol in the house. I had people listening who have already heard this. I had Matt Anderson on, who owns Eraser Records. We were talking about
shout out Eraser Records. The shit's lit.
Yeah. He was on, and I thought he would mention he was going to drink whiskey.
I was going to say, is he a big time drinker?
Yeah.
He does listen to records. It's
Yeah.
kind of like you're either fucking
Yeah,
smoking
he owns
loud,
his own record shop. He just hangs out.
Yeah, I
and-
smoke weed and I drink whiskey and I listen to records. It's like you better do something because that shit. I love listening to just sitting there and listening to records, and even I'm like, man, this is boring.
Yeah, but then he just went out and bought his own record shop, so now it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm working. But he said he was gonna drink whiskey on the show, and I was like, fuck yeah, like, because when he gets loosey goosey, he's so much. I mean, he's fun either way, but like,
I thought it was gonna be like I get to smell it.
no, he comes into work hot sometimes, and you're like, what's up, man? He's like, yeah, we're doing it, man. Let's do it.
I could never go into work drunk, man. I could never do it.
A lot of the episode we talked about that because I used to go in like fucked up,
Well,
like,
yeah.
on a daily basis. But
Yeah, but you were hardcore, man.
yeah, but he
You're really going after it.
he had told me he didn't have any whiskey though, so I was like, oh, I'll go get it because he's running the shop, so it's like he can't leave. And it was the first time in the 3 years that I've been sober that I went into like a bummy, like shady liquor. Because I go into liquor stores, but a lot of times it's like a Walmart liquor store to get Savannah some wine, or to like because alcohol is still the best gift to give people because it's super easy.
It's so easy.
So I still go into liquor stores from time to time, or to get cigarettes because they have cheap cigarettes. But
The best.
it was the first time in like a shady one, and they all have that same smell to them.
Oh yeah,
and it's that same smell that's in every liquor store that's a quote unquote packaging store that's open past. So as soon as I walked in and that smell hit me, I was like, I miss this.
Oh dude, yeah, no, this sounds like pathetic. As a functioning alcoholic myself, that smell, like when you're like sober and you're just like, man, I'm gonna get ripped tonight.
Yeah,
and then,
exactly.
you walk in.
As soon as it hits your nostrils, you're like, yeah, that's it.
Now I get this. Now that I don't drink as much, now I get that same kind of like fucking like, yo, let's fucking rip one off whenever I walk into Target.
Oh really?
Yeah, Target smell. I'm like, dude, let's fucking white the fuck out of this night, dude. Let's get real crackerish with this shit.
Yeah, that was the first time in a long time where I was like, yeah, because he was like, you mentioned, he was talking about getting drunk at work, and I think I've shared this on the podcast before, I'm not sure, but I would have 3 or 4 shot glasses, and I would pour those out for myself.
Yeah.
And I would just, like, the same situation we have here in the studio, like, I would have a coffee table.
Yeah.
And then, you love how I call it a studio.
You call it a studio. Yeah. Well, we got to be fast because Howard's going to be in here later to record. Yeah.
It's 2 chairs and 2 mics, but I'm like, no, the studio. But
and then we got our studio assistants. Gavin, thank you.
Yeah.
He just brought me another beer.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interns. That's what I was looking for.
I'll get back to that original story, but I actually had someone, they're like, oh, do you record the podcast? And I go, well, audio, but we don't do video. And they were like, oh, you need to do video. You totally
No,
need to
you
do video.
don't.
Well, I was like, I'm not really like, I don't have the camera set up, and I don't have the time to like edit an hour and a half podcast.
Swapping.
That's what I said.
Yeah, swapping the edit.
But then they were like, oh, I'll do it for you.
No, they won't.
And well, in my head, I was like, first of all, did you just offer me free service? Second of all, something that you do for free, you're not going to take very seriously. So I was like, nah, I'm good. But yeah, I used to put out like 3 shots on the coffee table, and I would just do those 3 shot glasses, just keep rotating them, boom, boom, boom. But eventually, I would always pass out.
It's so weird to me that, like, because my brother is like a really bad alcoholic. Shout out to my brother. We haven't spoken in a while. See, he would do the same thing where he would like, but he's like, I won't say his name, but like he would get ripped, and he would always like pour into a shot glass, and like me looking at it, and I've never been like the super huge liquor person.
Yeah.
But I look at it and I'm just like, just pour it into a big fucking cup.
Well, see, that's the thing is the
formality of the shot seems like inappropriate for home.
Well, it's like smoking. It's like the action of the doing. It's not the actual.
That makes
sense. Because if you wanted to get fucked up, you would just open a fifth and like just chug it.
Yeah.
But it's like the action of like doing the shot.
You're like, this is what normal people do.
Well, and the shit used to be so sad because I would watch, and I know you know this because I joke about it, but I would watch like Burn Notice. And I would do shots to like crazy, like
I'm like Bruce Campbell. I'm drinking Mai Tais and being a Blackwater guy.
Mojitos. But yeah, it was. I used to like whenever they would have like a good line, like either a hard hitting line or like he'd say something like walk out of the room. I'd be like fuck yeah, and I would like do a shot to it.
Like this is a reward for writing.
Yeah. And
just drunk as fuck, just slurring, just like Bruce Campbell says some shit like groovy, and then you go. Capital line, sir. And just fucking drop
that
one.
And I would always like do the cheers, but I would always
just cheersing a TV drunk by yourself in your underwear.
But I would always pass out.
Here's to Bruce.
My alarm would go off, to get ready for work. And this is when I was working at First Watch. So it would go off at like 5:30.
You were working at First Watch when you were drinking?
Yeah.
That is so rough, dude.
So my alarm would go off at 5:30, and I'd be on the couch, and I'd open my eyes, and what would be on the coffee table, because I had 3 shot glasses that I would go from. So 1 or 2 of them would still have a shot in there.
No.
And I would just boom, boom.
You fucking savage.
That's breakfast. Let's get ready to go to work.
What were you taking shots of vodka?
Yeah. At the end, it was vodka. I used to, in college, because I didn't really start drinking until I was done with high school, and I took a year off.
Yeah,
and that's
same.
where I kind of like started partying. But then I was training to play college football, so like
Yeah.
I was partying, but I would be like that crazy guy in Animal House or something. But it was like once a week, maybe.
Yeah.
And then when I got to college, I loved rum.
That makes sense.
Spiced rum.
Oh, Jesus.
So I started with Captain Morgan.
Yeah.
And I would do that all the time. And then when I stopped playing football and got like just basically took all that energy to play football and I just transferred that into partying.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can drink like half a thing of rum, like a half a handle of Captain. And I'm not getting nearly as fucked up as I want to because my tolerance had built so much.
Yeah, of course.
And the sugar was so like I would feel sick before I'd feel drunk.
Yeah. Plus, you're such a physical specimen.
I used to be, but
you're a beast, the savage like myself.
I
Just fucking throwing weight around in the gym.
But then I got
Absolute animal.
to Sailor Jerry.
Oh no.
Because that's almost.
Do you have any tattoos? Speaking of Sailor Jerry.
Yeah.
Do you have any Sailor Jerry type tattoos?
No, I don't.
Nah, just tribal.
Yeah.
Fucking asshole, I knew it.
No, I don't.
Oh, God, that'd be so good,
I
though.
have, scripture tattoo.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
no.
why I went, yeah, tribal.
I got Austin 3:16. What part of the Bible's that from?
Funny story about how that actually became a thing, but it's neither here nor there. You probably know because you lived with Brian for a while. But I switched to Sailor Jerry.
Shouts out Brian Ziola.
Yeah, he's been on the show.
Has he?
Yeah.
Damn, I need to
He
listen
had
to
one
this
of the
show.
best lines. He had one of the best lines I'd ever heard.
That's not surprising.
Well, we were talking about comedy, and I said, does it bother you? And people can go on my Instagram and see the clip, but I'm just going to say it right now.
Yeah.
I said, does it bother you when people are like, because I think comedy needs to have like some sort of social, like you can have dick jokes and pussy jokes and all that kind of stuff, like whatever. But like throughout your set, I would hope that you would try to say something.
You'd hope so. I mean, the number one thing is being funny. And then if you're able to connect that to something personal, that's the next step. But that's like so fucking, like I've been doing this for a while and I still have to get out of the habit of like, when I first started, it was like when you first start, it's like anything that hits, if it plays, it stays. Like no matter what, even if it has nothing to do with the next thing. And I've never been like a one-liner guy. It's always like, like either like 3-part structure or like there's like a punch and a tag, or it's like I have like a couple of stories that I'll do or whatever. But like even when I like first started out, I was like trying to do just funny, and whatever would work, I would keep it. But then eventually I started getting pretentious about it and be like, yeah, but what am I even saying?
Dude,
but then now it gets into my head where I'm like, I want to do a joke about this, and it's like, but that's not really how writing works. Unless you understand your process, which I don't have one.
Yeah.
Then like it's so hard to like come up with like what it's going to be about before you even know. Like I have to be thinking about dumb shit in my head and come up with a line that's like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Apropos of nothing, be like, how do I get to this? And then you reverse engineer.
Okay, I see. Yeah, because mine is different, and I'm fortunate enough to have all the stories that I have. Because I used to.
Yeah, you have much more like formal structure for sure.
Well, because
you have a lot of exposition because you have a lot of personal stuff.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's like
mine's like ideas where it's like, hey, what about this?
Well, because like you have that bit about basically eating the rich, which I think is hilarious, and in my. That is something. It's not only funny, but it's also saying something. But you do it in a way where it's like
that we want to physically eat the rich.
But that's funny. And
I don't really give I really don't give a shit about their stuff. Like it looks nice, but like I can't really eat a couch. But
I can eat a person,
a human being.
But because I used to do when I first started, I had I've got old joke books in this bookcase from like 2009.
I see those.
Yeah, well, some of those are actually, I kept all my stuff from college, so.
Right next to the Game Informers.
Yeah, so I have a lot of, some of those notebooks are from college classes, and some of them are joke books, but like some of the shit was like terrible. Like,
of course.
And it was garbage, but like I was doing a very bro-y kind of like, oh, I'm like the cool frat kid college football player.
Were you trying to do like Tucker Max shit?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I was just trying to do, and it was bad. Yeah. It was really bad. And so then when I moved.
It's weird that you got to existentialism from that.
Yeah, isn't it? Well, then when I moved to Oklahoma and live with my cousin.
But what does it mean to party? Sorry, shouts out to
Tom Joyce.
Yo, Tom Joyce, I fuck with you hard.
That's my cousin. He was doing comedy in Oklahoma City, and I moved out there with him after I spent $26,000 in 28 days.
He's an Okie?
If you want to, no. He's from Florida, but he went out there for Teach for America.
I don't fuck with Okies. Hook 'em horns, baby.
He actually lived in Austin for a while.
God damn it.
But he was really into. He's the one who introduced me to comedy when I was like 6 or 7. Like Mitch Hedberg, like the old school Comedy Central Presents and stuff.
Yeah.
And so he was.
Wait, how old are you again?
33.
Okay, that's
so he took it very seriously, like how pretentious and serious I take it now.
Yeah,
is how serious he was taking it.
Is he still doing comedy?
No. So that's the thing is he would get so mad at me because he'd be like, "Dude, like you're going on stage wasted and you're doing like Arnold impressions and doing like this frat boy humor." He's like, "Why don't you write a fucking joke?" And like so then I started to try to write setup punches, and I was so bad at that.
Yeah.
And then I got to the point, kind of like what Marcus talks about, because Marcus used to do one-liners. And then it got to the point where...
way back in the day. Yeah. I never even saw him do those.
Oh, really? Well, it got to the point where then I...
Well, he was in Orlando when I first started.
Okay,
And then he came back to Jacksonville.
Yeah, okay.
He bumped me from my first big show.
Did he really?
He really did.
That's hilarious.
I'll interrupt, but... That is a fun one. But yeah, like 7 months into comedy, like 7 months, I was doing very well.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had like a good 5 minutes, and then every week I would try to like do 3 of good shit and then 2 minutes of like new stuff, and it would usually work out pretty well. And so Chris Buck approached me for hosting Kyle Kinane at Jackrabbits.
I remember this.
Yes.
Marcus has told this story.
Yes. And
I've never heard your perspective of this.
No, and by the way, Marcus is like so much of a better comedian than I am, and especially at the time. Like now it's kind of like it's a little bit closer, but like Marcus is still way better. He's a headliner and I'm an occasional headliner, you know what I mean? But yeah, like and this is the most pathetic thing about it. I was like, yeah, my first big show, big boy pants on, I'm gonna fucking host the fuck out of this show. And I'd never listened to Kyle Kinane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was vaguely aware of who he was, but like I
love Kyle.
And now he's like one of my favorites. I've actually like worked with him, so now it's like it's different. But yeah, like I remember being like so excited. And then like a few hours before the show, Buck was like, "Hey, turns out Marcus Crespo's in town. He's actually gonna host it. Sorry, buddy." And I was like, "Oh man, bummer." And he was like, "You're still good. You could still come to the show or whatever." So it was free or whatever. But he definitely was like,
"Dude,
my bad." I felt like. I'm gonna say a name. Someone who shall remain nameless, who you know, was like, "You should be really fucking mad about that." And I was like, "No," because it would have gone horribly. I would have done like my little 5-minute whatever set for like the 60 people in a room that occupies probably like 42 comfortably.
Yeah.
And then just done whatever. And more embarrassing, and this is a good lead into a drunk story, was that I just got trashed the entire time and I was just like, this motherfucker is so funny.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, just trashed. And so after the show, we're all hanging out and Kyle's hanging out. And yet again, I don't know who he is. I'm vaguely aware of who he is, but I know he's like a fairly famous comedian.
Yeah, voice of Comedy Central. I don't know if he was back then.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this was 2013, 14.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we're hanging out at front, and he's fucked up too, because this is back when he used to get really drunk. He was just pounding fucking Bud Heavies. Like he had like an hour. He had an hour set, and he probably had 9. So he's like just wasted, and he's like, "I'm fucking hungry. Where's there to eat around here?" And I was like, "I could take you to Kickbacks." And so, and Kickbacks is this place that doesn't close till 3. They serve food till 3. So everybody's like, "Yeah, let's go to Kickbacks." And everybody's kind of figuring out who's gonna, like, oh, who's riding with who's riding with who. And like the way the Buck tells it is like, and then you are just dragging Kyle Kinane to your car. And on the way there, I have Kyle Kinane in the front seat, and I'm driving, and I really fucking shouldn't be, but he's too wasted to like notice. And on the way to Kickbacks, I'm like, "Do you ever miss doing open mics?" The most pathetic. Yeah. And shout out to fucking Kinane. He was the nicest fucking guy. And he was like, "Yeah, sometimes, man, like I miss like, just going to a place and doing a thing. But, because in LA it's hard." And because he's trying to placate me. Because he's like, it's not hard at all. Like, it's your Kyle Kinane. Kyle Kinane has the best career. I've said this so many times, but he's the career in comedy that I'm most jealous of, because everybody loves and respects him because he's one of the best comedians in the country.
Yeah.
And he's also not famous. Like, he's famous enough to where if you saw him, you'd be like, "I feel like that's a guy."
Yeah.
but he's not famous enough to where it's like he's getting his day interrupted all the fucking time.
Yeah,
Like, I
that's
love
true.
Patton, but I wouldn't ever want like Patton's life.
Yeah, because Patton, especially with all the movies and stuff that because I know Kyle's been in movies, but it's fun because when I
Movies and a couple shows.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all low key shit.
yeah, but and he does a lot of VO stuff, and it's so much fun when I see him or before Sebastian was Sebastian, you'd catch him.
Maniscalco?
You'd see
Yeah.
him in a movie, and obviously because I love comedy, so I'd be like, oh my god, that's Kyle Kinane,
Yeah.
and then my girlfriend's always like, who's that? And I go, it's a comedian. And she's like, "Oh, that's cool. Like that's pretty cool."
I love that your girlfriend is the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I love that she's also equally unimpressed with because that's how my girlfriend is.
Yeah.
I'll be like, "Oh, this thing," and she's like, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Well, we told the story when she was on the podcast, but when we were in New York, one of the times we went up there to visit before we were planning on moving, we were standing outside the cellar, and Tom Rhodes walked out, and I was telling her,
Oh, Tom Rhodes.
yeah, before
Good dude.
Tom, yeah, he's a great dude, but before he went up, he came, like, we were sitting in the back corner at the cellar, and he had walked by us, like, because he was getting ready to go on stage.
Yeah.
We've been there. We've been there. We know what that's like. Walking around.
I've
getting ready
never
to go on
I've
stage.
never been in New York.
No, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
I know
before-
it from the Louis entrance.
before you're going to do a set, like you kind of like I pace.
Yeah.
And so he was kind of pacing, and then he like paced right by our table, and I remember his original Comedy Central Presents, like from way
back in the day.
Yeah.
He's
like,
been doing it forever.
yeah. And so he walked by, and I said, "Holy shit, Tom Rhodes, man!" I was like, "I love you, man." He's like, "Thank," because he was getting ready to go on stage. He's like, "All right,
course.
man, cool, thanks."
And,
And
yeah, thanks, fuck off.
yeah.
Be nice about it, but like,
and I've been doing comedy at this point 10 years, and I'm still like, "Oh my god, hey man, can I talk to you before you go on stage?"
yeah, but you're such a fucking Labrador.
I
You know what I mean?
But he was like, "Oh, thanks, man," and then he went up, did his thing, and then after the show, we were outside, and he walked outside, and Savannah just not even hesitation walked up, and she said, "Tom, hey Tom," and I was
Nice.
like, "The fuck are you doing?" She's like, "Hey Tom."
It's called a power move. You wouldn't know anything about it.
Dude, I don't know anything about it, but she pulls that kind of stuff all the time. She's like, "This is my boyfriend Brennan. He's a really big fan of yours." Just
And then
wanted
you're
to
like,
say
"Hi, my dick is small and you're great."
Yeah.
Because you have no idea what to say.
Well, I kind of panicked, and I do what I do sometimes on this show, which is where I just started bulldozing the conversation. Like, I'm a comic from Florida. And he's like, "Oh, I'm from Florida." I was like, "Yeah, I know you're from Florida. I'm from this part," and like just started being like,
The worst
I've been doing
impulses.
comedy for on and off for like 10 years, man. Was really hoping to move up to New York one, and like, and Savannah's like pinching my arm, like, "Shut the fuck up."
Yeah. You need someone to fucking because that thing that happened with whenever Kinane was hanging out with us at Kickbacks, like days later. I mean, a couple days later, Buck approaches me about it, and he's like. And for anybody that doesn't know, I'm sure he's been brought up on the show a bunch of times, probably, right?
Buck? Oh, yeah.
So he's like the godfather of the scene. He's honestly probably, no disrespect to anybody else. There's a bunch of great comics in the scene, but he's probably the best comic in Jacksonville. Honestly, in my opinion, he's probably the best comic in Florida. But he is like, if you do not pull that starfucker shit ever again. And he was like being dead serious about it. And I was like, "I'm sorry, man. I just don't, like, I was wasted." And he was like, "No, I know. But like, just don't pull it." And like for years afterwards, like, so whenever like a headliner would come through who's like got some fucking clout behind it, like if it's like Full Sharon or something that, who've done Rain Dogs, from then on, it's always, business as usual. You you approach him, you say, "Hey, what's up, man? Trevor, nice to meet you. Like, you excited for the show? Oh, where are you off to next? Where are you coming from? Oh, how was that?"
Yeah.
Business shit. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's
Because that's an impulse you got to learn. And it was tested actually a couple of years later. Buck and then our good buddy Jake Head, great comedian. Go download his album Wildcat. It's really good.
Yes.
They were opening for Brian Posehn at Underbelly when Underbelly was still a thing.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't on the show, but I got to hang out in the green room with them, and I love Brian Posehn. So this is a comic that I know and I really love. And like, I know Buck is looking fucking like,
Don't you fucking dare.
"You want to go to Kickbacks?" No, it's like fucking. So we were just hanging out in the green room, and it helps that Brian Posehn, not that Kyle Kinane isn't, but Brian Posehn, totally sober, is like the nicest person that I've, as far as like the level of like fame and also very nice. He's like the peak of it for sure.
Now, do you listen to a lot of like podcasts and stuff that comics do?
Yeah,
Because that's the problem that I've realized that I run into is, and I've actually made the mistake of like emailing like Full Charge about this and stuff, where I'm like, like because I listened to so much, I've been listening to them for so long and heard so much, not only of their comedy, but at the same time, like just their daily conversations with people.
You know their
on
lives,
the show.
which is weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
and you don't want to tell them that you kind of know that.
You forget that it's a one-sided conversation.
Exactly.
So like I remember in the past, and this is something I talk about on my podcast network on, we do like a Twitch call and stuff every Thursday. But this is something I've talked to them about, and I just kind of talk about on a regular basis about like, I wish I could go back in time to drunk me and like shake him and be like, stop fucking DMing these people.
And also, I'm incredibly jealous of you. God, I want to.
But like I used to get drunk, and I used to do it to Buck. Like I'd get drunk and like DM him or Facebook message him at like 2 a.m. Like,
and then 3 days later, he would get back to you.
Well, I'd be like, hey man, I really want to come back and start doing comedy, because I started doing comedy in Jacksonville in 2013. So I started in 2009 in South Florida, ended up in Jacksonville in rehab in 2013. And as soon as I got to rehab, I started doing comedy again. That's how I met Buck and Crespo and everybody back then.
Yeah, 2013, there wasn't even that many shows. It was like Rain Dogs.
Top of that,
Three
Rain
layers.
Dogs, three layers. Yeah.
North Star.
And so but I would do that with super famous comedians as well, because of social media. They make it easy to connect.
I feel weird DMing anyone.
So I would you feel weird about it until you're fucking
that
three
I
sheets
don't
to
know.
the wind.
Yeah.
And then you're wasted, and then you listen to them on podcasts all the time. You feel like they're your friend.
Of course.
And then you send them, oh my God, I regret so much. Like, I ruined relationship. And I'm probably, if they saw me in a crowd, they'd be like, I think I know that guy.
Yeah.
But they obviously never think about me. They don't give a shit about me. But it's something I think about on a daily basis, is like the fact that I used to get drunk and like message, like I'll never forget, we went to go see Segura one time at the Comedy Zone back before he was doing theaters. And I had messaged him when my grandfather.
I missed both those shows, by the way.
Did you really?
I was in Daytona Beach both
I've
times.
seen him every single time he's come to Jack's, but the first time I went to that show,
so jealous.
Because I had emailed him about, or I tweeted, I don't know, something. When my grandfather had passed away, I was sitting on the plane and I was listening to
He was
your mom's
approachable
house.
back then, though.
Yeah, but I was listening to your mom's house, and I sent him a message like, hey man, I'm going through a lot right now. I just want to let you and Christina know this podcast is really making me laugh through this tough time. And he emailed me back. He's like, that's awesome, man.
I'm sure
Good
that's a reply for sure.
Yeah. So then when I went to see him at the Comedy Zone, he was like, hey man, what's up? And I was like, we're standing in line to go say hi, and I was, because his
Is this
style,
before or after the show?
This is after.
So this is when they're doing a little like backdrop, Comedy Zone backdrop. Everybody form a line, say what's up.
So as I'm walking up there, he like saw the line and then saw me and was like, "Hey man, what's up?"
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, "Holy shit!" Because I've been a fan of his since Thrilled, his first album. And he was like, "Yeah, from Twitter." And I was like, "Yeah, my name's Brennan." And he's like, "Yeah, from Twitter." That was probably the worst thing that could have happened.
Oh, because
now I think we're buddies.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And then moving forward, I would get blackout drunk and like tweet at him or like DM him or something and be like, "Hey man, next time you're in town, let me get like 5 minutes." I remember one time.
Did you DM him after he fucked himself up this time?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
Actually, that's a lie.
I fucking knew it, you piece of shit. Oh god.
I sent him a DM on Instagram. I was like, "Hey man, I really hope you're feeling good." But I can't.
You had literally 100,000 people.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like I've been listening to the guy for 10 years every week, so it's like and it was so bad. And because then I heard him talking to Bert about it on Two Bears One Cave one time.
Yeah.
They were like, "Yeah, man, like these random requests we get about people like wanting to do proposals on stage or like they're open micers, and then they email us like asking to do 5 minutes on our show and stuff." And I'm like, I've done every single one of those things.
For sure, yeah, no.
And,
not that I have.
But no, it's like you're talking about though with the Kyle Kinane thing. It's like
that taught me right away. That was yeah.
And I wish I learned, because still to this day, I will still think like I have a relationship with a comedian that I do not have.
Yeah.
And it's like
that's the thing though, because like my girlfriend gets on to me about this, is that so there are like certain like bigger comedians that I'm like decent friends with, like people that have like Conans or like whatever, like Alan Sugar Williams has a couple of Conans.
Yeah.
I consider him a buddy because I'll DM him whenever I see that he's in town because he's from here, but he lives in LA. And he's like, a couple of Conans, a couple of things, whatever. But we're actual buddies in the sense that I'll like DM him and we'll hang out if he's ever here. Same with like a couple other people, but it's like I refer to people that I've worked with before. I say buddy all the time, and she's like, "You got to stop saying buddy."
Yeah. Because
people start fucking thinking that you're like I never did it with Kinane, but I've had like multiple people that I work with, or like just regular people. Like a buddy of mine, I don't want to name him. Like introduced me to his girlfriend, and she was like, "Hi, nice to meet you." And then he went, "He's friends with Kyle Kinane."
Oh,
and I was
shit.
like, "No, I'm not. Like,
Yeah.
no, you don't understand. Like, I hung out with him one time, and then we were on a festival together, and that's it."
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Well, see, and that's
we were on a festival that he was headlining, and I wasn't even opening for him. Brian was.
Yeah.
And I like hung out with him in the green room area.
Yeah.
And like didn't really say much other than like, "Hey, I did this stupid thing one time," and he was like, "I remember you." And I was like, "Yeah, sorry about that." And he was like, "You're good." And I was like, "No, you don't understand. Like, people gave me so much shit for it." And he was like, "Well, good, I guess."
Yeah. But that's the weird thing is that, especially now with podcasting and stuff, it's so, and I don't know if this is a universal problem or like what you're talking about. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like,
You just say buddy.
like I feel like these people are my friends in my head because I get it all twisted because I've been listening to them for a decade.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're not, like Will Blaylock has that great line where it's like, we're not fucking friends, man.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
And Savannah makes damn sure like I remember that because I've done that so, like when Joe Rogan was in town for the fights.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, they're staying at the Hyatt because they're doing the fights right at the arena. So happenstance, he ends up going to eat at the restaurant. And so
Yeah, you work at a place where people like that show up.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so jealous of every Jaguar that shows up. By the way.
And so, dude, speaking of this, I just DM'd a Jaguars player because he took a picture at the restaurant
Which
that I
one?
work at.
Which one?
Will Richardson.
Hell yes.
Well, it was just his birthday, so you went to a steakhouse.
Happy birthday, Will.
And dude, I'm looking through the
What
stories.
position does he play on the offensive line?
Tackle.
Guard?
No,
Tackle.
he's the backup tackle. So like he gets a lot of play because Cam Robinson.
Yeah,
also
Cam
gets
Robinson got hurt, and then they moved Juwan Taylor over to the left.
No. They
he
keep
stayed
Juwan
on right.
on the right, and then they move Will into the
Yo,
left.
shout out Juwan Taylor, one of the
That's-
finest right guards,
that's one-
or finest right tackles.
That's
in
one of my
football.
regulars. But
God damn, he's real.
but I fucking DM him because I've waited on him like 4 times. So it's like, oh, we're buddies.
Yeah,
And like she's like, Savannah's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, I know.
Like, stop doing this.
yeah. No, the only Jaguar that I've ever really interacted with for so Paul Postlesny.
Yeah.
Fucking one of my all-time favorite Jaguars.
I proposed in his jersey.
So fucking good, oh, dude. Hell yeah.
Well, it didn't work out, but
Penn State. Anyways, he kept his mouth shut. That's why he had a great career. So he gets his hair cut at the same place that I do, which is also like right next to where I work. So every Tuesday for like every other week, every Tuesday, if I worked in the morning, I would see him walk by, and he's like, fucking like,
he's massive.
yeah, he's like 6'5", cut, like because he's not playing anymore, but he's still in playing shape.
Yeah.
and it's not bulk. It's like linebacker, 5% body fat, fucked up, like just rigid. And I told my dad this, and he's my dad's favorite Jaguar. And my dad, because he's a dad, goes, "Oh, he knows Paul Postlesny."
Yeah.
And he goes out and he buys a football, like legit, like like one of those NFL like fucking game used,
Yeah.
like $100, and he just gives it to me and goes, "Get Paul to sign this." And I'm like, "You want me to just keep a football
Just in the back.
just at work for when Paul Postlesny walks by, and you expect me to just have a Sharpie and be like, 'Yo, Paul, my man, what's up, dude?'" I never got around to doing it because that's psychopath shit, and I would never actually do that.
That's
but
my problem is I
but-
do that shit.
I did last time I saw him walking by, because it had been a while. I did finally like cut out outside, like I fucking cut out from outside the bar, ran out the front door, and went, "Hey, yo, Paul!" And he turned around and I went, "You're a fucking bad dude." And he goes, "Thanks, man," and then just like walked into the hair salon.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, we're buddies now."
Well, see, that's so she texts me and she goes, "Hey, just so you know, Rogan's here." And of course, I fucking jump in my car. I fly down to the restaurant. No, this was at Morton's.
Oh, okay. You want to?
This will be the first time ever there's an edit point
All
in this
right. Well, I
podcast.
might as well get a beer.
Yeah. But I did that to Joe Rogan. I walked up and I go, "Hey, man, I'm a comedian. I really love you." And she's like, "What are you doing?"
Nothing happened.
I waited for him to finish eating, and there were people like approaching him while he was trying to eat, and I was like, "Okay, you people are fucking assholes." But I wait for him to finish eating, and then on his way out,
How tall is he, by the way?
like 5'8", 5'9".
I knew it.
But on his way out,
He has such 5'9" guy energy.
I was like,
I say this as a 6-foot Adonis myself.
yeah, I'm 6'1". I go, Mr. Rogan. And
It's respectful. I'll
my
give you that.
girlfriend's sitting at the front, and she turns like and gives me a look like, "The fuck are you doing?"
No.
And I was like, "Hey, man, I'm a comic here in Florida, and I just wanted to come by and say hi." Basically, I stalked you Like,
you said this?
No.
Oh, thank God.
But that's basically what I did. And it's like, again, it's one of those weird things where it's like, oh, we both do comedy.
Yeah.
Like, so we're cool. Like, I just, like that Kyle Kinane story you told just really hit home because it's like, oh, I do that all the time.
You got to get rid of that, man.
I still do it
I
to
know.
this day, and
You
it's
gotta
the
get out of
fucking
there.
worst.
Yeah, no, but like I say that, and then it's like, but you always have like that excitement. Like, so for instance, like, so my buddy, shout out Jake Flores, he opened up for Patton Oswalt at the Florida Theater when he was here.
Okay.
And there was a small part of me, because Patton Oswalt's like my hero. He's the reason I do stand up. He's my favorite comedian ever. He's the best. Sorry, burping. So there's a little part of me that's like, well, obviously I'm going to hang out with Jake afterwards. And we did, and we got blackout. But I was like, maybe I'll actually be able to like talk to Patton for a little bit. And there actually was a window because Patton's leaving the theater. I messaged Jake and I'm like, hey, I'm outside. Where are you at? And he's like, oh, we're just over here. I'm hanging out with Patton. I was like, awesome.
Here we go.
So I
Here
walk
we go.
over.
This is why we play the game.
Exactly. And so I walk over, say what's up, because I met him when we were on a festival. And then he kind of had this whole thing that blew up. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. And we just like DM'd every once in a while. And then he just showed him in Jacksonville. So I was like, hey.
This is Jake you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
The fucking like NSA broke his door down or some shit for a tweet. And then he got kind of some clout off that.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. But so we were hanging out and talking. And then Patton's like right there. And I'm like, man, can't wait to like, at least, because this is the thing, is you don't want to be like, you kind of want to do the business as usual talk, but if you are gonna like fucking suck someone off, you just do it. And this is what I always do whenever I meet someone that's like this, like if it's either like a musician that I really like or like a comedian or something like that, is that sure you do like the, oh, great set, man, where are you off to next, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
But also if it's someone like this, my go to is like, hey, not to be weird, but like I just want to thank you for what you do because you're a really big deal to me. So I just wanted to say
you're so much smarter.
You want to just plant it in this idea of like not being like sucking them off too hard, where you're like, you just like, hey, just wanted to let you know you're a really big deal to me. So I just want to thank you for what you do. That's it.
So much smarter than what I do.
Exactly, because it's like a little bit of like, oh shit, man, really? Like,
Yeah,
it's because that type of thing. Because you personalize it and be like, it's important to me.
Yeah.
It gives them kind of like a, oh, that's cool, man, thank you. And I never got the chance to because I'm looking, and it's funny because Patton's like looking over at Jake, and Jake's like doing like that, and Patton's being like hounded by this guy who just won't stop talking to him.
That's me.
And
That's me in this
and
situation.
his car service is right there to go back to the hotel because it's Patton. He just wants to go back and Skype his kid and go to bed. And I see who it's like fucking accosting him, not accosting him, but just like taking all of the fucking time, like literally talking to him for like 15 minutes. This guy I used to work with.
Are you serious?
Yep. Yeah. Who doesn't even do comedy and made fun of me for doing it.
Wow, I'd have punched him right in the dick. Right.
I mean, he's a good dude, but yeah, he was just totally lost. Where it was just like, oh, you do comedy? Oh, that's funny. And he would see me and be like, oh, I guess that was pretty okay. Because he's like a very queenie, like kind of gay guy type thing. Where it's like, buddy of mine, but he's just like sarcastic type thing. Where
very
it's like,
dry,
yeah, because he'll be like, but yeah, it's just so funny to see him like
that's
fanboying out on Patton Oswalt, and it's just like I could have talked to him on more of a level, and then. You just being like, thank you for doing the thing you do.
So when
I do a similar thing by doing my thing.
Yeah. When Jeff Dye came into town, he came in, he always used to bring Brant Tobler, which was one of his openers. And I love...
Is that the dude that friends with Zanasek?
Maybe. Oh, no, Jeff Dye is friends with Zanasek. Yeah. But I like Brant. I first heard Brant on the Crab Feast many years ago, and I was like, oh, this dude's hilarious. His stories are so funny. So again, did the Brennan thing, and I would fucking get drunk and DM him and stupid shit like that.
This is the last fanboying story, by the way.
Yeah. And then, but same thing happened. And so he was like, oh, you guys should come out to the show. So we go to the show. It was great. You know, Brant was hilarious. Jeff Dye was hilarious. And then this was the first time, though, that this had ever happened. And this is, I think, why I continue to do the fanboy thing, is because he treated me...
You're like a dog. They just keep giving you Pavlovian
But that's the thing,
reinforcement.
is like he treated me like a comic.
Yeah.
Where he was like he was selling his album, and he was like, I was like, oh man, how much? And he goes, dude, like just take it. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then we were talking about something, and I go, yeah, man, that's like a shitty Tribble run. And he goes, how the fuck do you know what a Tribble? And he goes, oh yeah, I forgot you do comedy. So we're like actually connecting, and I'm like, it finally worked. It finally worked.
Yeah, fake it till you make it, son.
And then this guy came up and just started hounding him. And I legit wanted to like...
Unlike you.
Yeah, right? But I legit was like, oh, this guy wants to talk about partying. I want to talk about comedy. Like, I almost want to have like this mini podcast. Like, obviously, this is before I was doing a podcast. But you know what I mean? Like that same style of like, let's just shoot the shit for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, shoot the breeze and fucking...
And this guy would not shut the fuck up. And every time Brant and I would start talking about something like comedy related, this guy would like chime in and try to one up and then change the show. And I was finally just like, all right, man, well, it was great to see you. Like, I'll talk to you later. But...
That's the worst kind of person to be, is to like listen in on somebody's story and be like, yo, anyways, something happened to me.
Yeah.
That's even crazier.
Which I actually do on the show all the time.
No, of course. But you have like a fucking lived experience that's like it. Like, I've never been a fucking, an alcoholic football player. I've never done that. I've been not that, I guess. I don't know what the fuck. I spent my 20s just drunk and in shitty relationships for the most part.
Did you really?
Yeah, until the last one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you make
which is the one that I'm currently in. Yeah, no, for sure. We just bought a house. And by that I mean she bought a house.
I was gonna say that outside when you go, we just bought a house. I was gonna go, didn't you?
It's the best, dude. If she
bought
like,
a house,
after, like when she's like, if we like have kids, I'm 100% gonna be like, we're pregnant. I'm gonna be that guy. Absolutely.
So that's funny. What did you do? Because you went to UNF, correct?
I did,
University of North Florida.
It took me 10 years to get a bachelor's degree there.
Did it really?
10 years.
Oh, you're not even being hyperbolic.
I guess like 8. So like when I graduated high school, I went to like one of them smart kid schools.
What year did you graduate high school?
2009.
Okay, so you're a couple years younger than me.
Yeah, I'm 29. I'll be 30 in June. And that's another thing Megan gives me shit about is I keep telling people I'm 30, and she's like, you're not 30. I'm like, I might as well be.
Yeah.
Spiritually, I'm 57. But so yeah, no, like when I graduated school, I like immediately went to FSCJ and I got my AA degree super quick. Because like I had college credits from like when I was in high school. Took a little bit of time off, and then I went to UNF, and then like I just continued to drop out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. For like a good 4 years before I started taking it fairly seriously. If I had to, realistically, my bachelor's degree took me like 8 years, and there was like 2 of those where I was completely done. I just need one class, like 3 credits, and I just didn't do it. And I would tell people that, and they'd be like, you were absolutely fucking out of your mind.
That's what I get a lot of shit because when I first got to college, I was obviously playing, and so you have to, like, they have people come by to check to make sure you're in class, sitting in like the front 3 rows and all this kind of shit. So like it's
the most important thing about a sports scholarship is the academics, obviously. Yeah, it's the most important.
Well, and I was
thing.
only on I've talked about this before, but I was only on a partial scholarship, but we took classes with all the other, like, the real players.
Yeah.
So they would come in and just kind of be like, all right, yeah, Tassif's here too, whatever. But which is why when I got injured, nobody gave a shit. Like, there's no 30 for 30 on it or anything. It's just kind of like, yeah, you don't play, like, you're a scout team guy, like, who cares?
Yeah.
But
fullbacks, baby, they're a dying breed.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
Juszczyk and then one other guy, I think.
Yeah, there's only 2 or 3 of them in the league now. A lot of times,
Anthony Sherman for the Chiefs.
Yeah, and then a lot of times they'll take
then,
their tight ends and put them in at fullback.
I remember Jags a couple years ago had a fullback.
Yeah,
for a long time we had one of the best fullbacks. Greg Jones was sick. Yeah,
Greg Jones, who was awesome. The power running back out of Florida State.
Used to live in Hidden Hills Country Club down the street from a friend of mine.
He used to go to the gym near the beach, and I used to run into him. He used to work out there, and I would always gauge how much he was lifting.
How is this podcast just us talking about our proximity to more famous people?
I don't know.
We've got to talk about.
We got to stop that.
We got to stop, dude.
I've already been like, yeah, he's one of my regulars at work.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, yeah, I did a show with him one time,
dude. But it's so true what you're saying. Just last thing about the
that's what conversations with comics usually turn into. Like at our level of just like open micers that have done like some things.
Yeah.
Like that's what like so all of my like I met a guy is that I opened for someone or I was on a festival.
Yeah.
And I've only been on like 2 festivals.
But that's where you meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
But this is I know we've pretty much cemented the point that I'm a bit of a psycho when it comes to meeting people because I feel like I know them. But this will totally solidify it.
Do you hope that when people listen to this, they'll know you?
Sometimes. I got an email.
Fucking moron.
I got one email about the podcast to the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, to Brennan Tassif at BrennanTComedy.com.
Oh,
it was the headline was this.
Yeah, you have a comedy email?
Well, it's through my website, BrennanTComedy.com.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have a Gmail that has that shall remain.
I also have a Gmail that's...
It's a handle and then it's comedy at the end.
Yeah.
It's like at
Well, all my
gmail.com.
social media is Brennan T Comedy.
You write it down on a form and you're like instantly embarrassed.
I did that when I was 22 years old and I first started comedy. Because I have that joke where I'm like, oh, you do 2 open mics, then you're a comic. That's exactly what I
hate
did.
that.
That's why it's so like for me, I love doing that bit because it's like, no, that's true. Like I did 2 open mics, then I changed everything to comedy, Brennan T Comedy on all platforms, and then I even had works at stand up comedy on Facebook forever.
That is the worst.
Until I realized,
like,
like,
the worst look in the world.
It's funny. The longer you do comedy, the more you realize how dumb all that shit is.
Oh, of course. I mean, if your job is not like, I would never tell if somebody's like, "What do you do?" I would never say, "I'm a comedian."
Yeah.
I'm a bartender.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then if somebody's like, "What's your hobby?" I was like, "Oh, I do comedy sometimes."
Yeah.
Not even like, I've been doing like comedy consistently for like 7 years. I have had like mild success at it.
See,
I never say that.
We're the opposite.
Never say that.
Because when people,
Ever.
because I'm super.
I don't want anybody to know that I do it.
Well, I'm super pretentious about it.
Because then I have
so
to talk about it
when
with
people-
people that don't, who aren't you or other
That's true.
comics.
Yeah, that's when you have to talk
How
about
do you
it to
write
regular
this stuff?
civilians.
I don't fucking
yeah.
know.
Well, see,
It
and
also
that's-
reveals just how little I know about what I do. Like I see all these notebooks that you got here next to the Game Informers and all the, let's see, Big Sick, Crazy Stupid Love, and The Dark Knight, the 3 greatest comedies of all time. I haven't written anything down ever.
Oh, really?
Ever.
Well, see, I mean, I write a lot of stuff down, but because
It's all off the cuff, baby.
it's all now, it's a lot.
I
of
just
it's-
remember for the most part.
Yeah. Well, and my thing,
And it's a happy surprise when I remember a good bit from 3 years ago.
I constantly am writing stuff down because I always forget, but
Well, you have, you have traumatic
I
brain
do
injuries.
have-
You got CTEs.
that is the assumption by the doctors.
Yeah. That's why you were yelling at me outside. You're like, if you don't do this, fucking gonna fucking kill you
But,
on your little neck. And you're lucky that I'm just now getting back to the gym.
But
I'm at Orange Theory. I'm the only boy in my class.
the last thing I wanted to touch on about that, and I just wanted to bring it back full circle, but when I was waiting on Jawan Taylor and his family, I've waited on them a
Name
few
dropper.
times, but then
Pathetic.
I made this mistake because I've waited on them a few times. I thought we were all cool.
Absolutely not. You're not.
No, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remembered what they ordered the last time they were there, which was like almost 8 months ago. I remembered.
Oh, you're the
everything.
white boy that gives me steaks.
Yeah, but dude, I was like, "Are you gonna do the chicken again with the extra stuffing?" And he's like, "Oh shit, you remember?" I was like, "Yeah, man, of course." So then I thought, "Oh, we're cool." So then
Clicks in
I
the
was
head.
like,
Oh, no.
I was like, "Hey, man,
I have a podcast.
dude, I did it."
No, you fucking piece of shit. Oh,
I go-
my God, no.
I go, "Hey, man, I do."
Do you
a
like comedy?
No, I.
He's like, yeah, you like Cat Williams? You're like, I love him. Anyways, my podcast is nothing
I
like
go,
it.
"Hey, man, I have a sports because I do a sports pod." I go, "Hey, man,
Yeah.
I was
you
like,
should
"Hey,
put me
man,
on that one.
just so you know."
Let's back to back it.
I was like, "Hey, man, just so you know, I'm gonna give you a shout out on my sports podcast." And he like looked up at me and then looked back at his family, then looked back up at me, and he's like, "All right." And I was like, and you, as a comic, you learn to read the room. So I was very much like,
I don't think you have to be a comedian to realize how
well,
stupid you are.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, this has gone terribly, terribly sideways.
Oh
This
my
is not.
God.
And I was just like, okay, man. And I turned and I walked away, and I barely went back to the table because I was like,
You go back and you're like, I don't even know what a podcast
Yeah.
is. I was just running. I don't even
but
know.
that's the last thing we'll mention about. But I fucking
God.
make an ass out of myself
so
all the time.
funny.
Oh man. But so you, back to you. You're now
The
getting.
most important person.
Hey man, I do a sports podcast. I gave you a shout out just so you know.
God damn it. Anyways, what's up?
I feel like this median isn't nearly as like saturated as it is. I'm like, yeah, I do a sports podcast and I do a comedy podcast and like I do comedy because like what you were saying about how you don't tell anybody you're a comedian.
Never.
When people at work ask me,
Unless I want people to come to a show.
yeah,
That because it's hard to get people that know you do comedy to come to a show for the most part because they're like, we've seen it.
Yeah.
So if it's like somebody you work with that's like just figures it out and goes like, oh, when's the next time you're doing thing? That's the worst question because you're like, I don't want what you want to come to the open mic where I'm going
Yeah.
on 22nd and I bomb my dick off and I eat shit and then I look like an asshole and you're like, yeah, he does this thing. I don't know why he does it. No, like but if it's like like when I was doing house shows with Brian and Ben, like that was like when it was like, I'm going to work. I'm having to tell everyone, I'm like, hey, we're going to do a thing
Yeah.
at the house. You should come to it. And that's like a good amount of people would come for that.
Well,
Other than that, I keep it super close because I don't want.
See, that's the thing is a lot of times I'll be talking to guests, and at my restaurant it's fancier, so you don't really. Will not speak to a guest unless they inquire about me. Like so, unless we start talking back and forth.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's like because there's people in there doing very big business deals and stuff. You don't even see me. I'm not here. Like
Yeah.
I get your order and I'm gone. I'm a ghost. But But if I ever do get to start talking to the customers, and then same thing every time, and I talked about it on here, where they'll be like, "Oh, you went to college?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I actually was pre-law. I actually got accepted into law school." And they're like, "What are you doing here?" And that's when I hit them with I'm following my dreams of being a stand-up comedian, and this schedule is just a lot more
You should just
flexible.
tell them that I'm working on it.
Well, because I don't want them. I don't like the fact that they can get away with just talking to someone like that.
Yeah.
So I always go,
Oh yeah, no, that is a dickish thing
Yeah,
to say.
so I'm
what are you
always-
doing here? It's like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an easy way to make.
a lot of money."
Yeah, I was about to throw a figure out, and I was
But-
about to out you.
Yeah, but I was like, I always say, I'm pursuing my dream of stand-up comedy, and this schedule is just so much more flexible working in a restaurant than it is working in an office.
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to, I could take off 3 days in the middle of the week, and I don't have to use pay time off or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then they always immediately go, "Oh my God, you do comedy. Where do you do comedy at?" But that's the good thing about having the website.
At the local club, of course.
That's the good thing about
Which-
having the website is I can always just be like, "Oh, check my website, listen to the podcast, blah, blah, blah."
Mm-hmm.
But it's shitty because sometimes they'll ask you to do bits.
Yeah, that's why I don't want that at all. Also, I need to get a website too, but I don't want dates on it. I just want it to be that picture of the pig with balls that are so huge it shits on its own balls, and it just stays on the balls.
That's just what you want the site to be?
Yeah, why not? That's about what I deserve for my career so far.
Well, that's the weird thing about
It's
it.
definitely funnier than anything I've ever written. It's just a pig whose balls are so huge it can't get shit off of them.
That is weird.
It is very
my
funny.
balls used to be that. Well, my left ball used to be that big.
Then he started cycling.
Well, I had a swollen testicle. They started cycling. That's funny.
And I ain't talking about bicycles, folks.
Hey, but it's just weird because you forget that the market's so saturated. Because it's like on paper, I do 2 podcasts. I have a website. I get comedians on here. I get all sorts of people on here, and we talk about stuff. And it's like,
Yeah, if this doesn't make me famous, I'm going to be really
well, it's
upset
like,
with you.
I'm doing it. Like I'm doing the thing.
Yeah.
Like the thing that like Segura and Burr and Rogan all talk about. Like go out and just fucking do your thing.
Yeah.
Like don't sell it to anybody. Don't write for anybody else. Just do your fucking thing. And it's like, I'm doing that. I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
And then you check the downloads and you're like, nobody gives a shit that I'm doing my thing.
Yeah, because you don't have the cloud of an entire 13-year career in the LA scene behind you.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
It's just so painful because it's
It's
like
so hard to luck into a successful podcast. Like one of my favorite podcasts of all time, which shall remain nameless because it will out me as being a psychopath, makes $50,000 a month on Patreon, and they do not give a shit about the show at all. It is complete and utter luck and happenstance that it became as popular as it is.
Yeah.
And it is just complete luck. They hate it.
yeah,
Because all 3 of them are working comedians, and I went and saw one of them at Side Splitters in Tampa because we happened to be. It was that's where girlfriend's from. Her mom lived there. She was out of town, so we stayed at her apartment.
Okay.
And it was kind of hey, let's go see this dude. And I was talking to him after the show, and I was like, "What do you think about the podcast?" And he's like, "I fucking hate it. I hate."
Was this recently?
It was a year ago.
Okay.
And he actually, what's funny is
Just
that
based off of the information you gave me, I wanted to try and guess who it is.
so this was, it's so funny is that I was down there, and this was the beginning of the year. This was pre-COVID, and I remember we were in so this will date it. I got a weird message on my phone, from I was looking at tweets, and it was Kobe, and I was like, that's weird. And then we go and have lunch at Outback, and
No rules, just right.
just right, and so.
I was the voice of the phone for Outback.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, just the local one that I worked
Oh,
at.
okay. I thought you were the Australian guy for a second there.
No, I was.
But you did an Australian accent for the phone?
Yeah.
That is.
When I first started working at the Outback in Palm Coast, the recording was just a guy, and then I was able.
Welcome to the Outback.
This was in 2006, and it was, "G'day, mate. Thanks for calling Outback Steakhouse at Palm Coast." And
That's not bad.
I did the whole thing. This is forever ago. Anyway, back to your story.
You got to round the lip corners a little bit more. So like I said, this will date it. We're in Outback, and on the TV, it flashes the images of the side of a mountain
Oh,
in a
shit.
helicopter
Yeah.
crash. In the helicopter crash, and it's Kobe Bryant just passed away, and it's still kind of iffy, where it's just what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, what's happening?
And then it's confirmed Kobe Bryant and daughter and 7 other people died in helicopter crash. As that's flashing on TV, I hear, happy birthday,
from the Outback
and they
Crew,
fucking they
wish you
start
was a-
as the like this huge sad fucking awful news hits because I love Kobe,
Yeah.
and fucking hits. And then there's just this entire parade of people just singing a happy birthday song. And I tried to thankfully, like I have irony poisoning, so I can't feel things anymore. So I took out my phone immediately and was trying to get a perfect video of like the birthday song and then just
In the
move
background,
right
yeah.
over and just show the TV of like Kobe Bryant dead at 40, whatever. And then be like, yay!
Oh, that would have been hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, but
The
yeah.
irony would have been funny.
So funny. So I was talking to this guy and he was just like, yeah, no, I fucking hate it because
Well, it's so bizarre because there's podcasts that I listen to that I've been listening to for a decade that have like.
Well, all their fans are shitheads. That's like the whole point.
Well,
of the
that's
show, because it's the lowest common denominator humor. It's
Okay,
like, it's
I
like,
know exactly
It's
what
like
you're
irony,
talking about.
racism,
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
that other shit, which is like, blah blah blah. But like, I think it's funny, so I listen to it a bunch. It's like one of my favorites, and because it's like sometimes you just need to listen to the dumbest shit possible
Yeah.
from a bunch of people who are way better than that.
Yeah,
Just
that makes sense.
It's like when you're listening to like I'm like on an old like 300s Renaissance of like your mom's house.
Okay.
Where it's just like, would you rather,
Yeah.
get molested by your grandfather or be mentally retarded?
I remember
Where it's just
those.
like, perfect. This is
Yeah,
what I need
this
to
is
shut
fun.
the brain off. This is very funny.
Well, and it's weird though because like there are podcasts like that, like Your Mom's House and like Monday Morning and all those ones that became so big that they were able to start networks and
Yeah.
produce other podcasts. And then there are other podcasts from comics that are great comedians that have been on those other said shows.
Yeah.
And they've got like 89 people pledging on Patreon. And they've been doing it for 10 years. You're like, the fuck is going on here?
That's just the way it works. I don't know, because podcasting is such a fucking crapshoot.
Yeah.
That
There's
it, like-
over 1 million podcasts. I did the research when I
Yeah.
first started. And the idea for this show came 10
It should just
years ago. I should have
honestly,
started
it should
10
just
years
be
ago.
like, this is just like, because I'm having a great time,
Yeah,
and
me too.
that's what it should be. It's just like for you personally, it's like if we that's a disgusting noise I just made. If you were to luck into like becoming bigger, that's great for you. But it's like this is the way that I approach comedy. Was like I have no ambitions of like getting bigger or anything like that. No, I just wanted to be like, this sounds a little bit weird or like maybe a little pretentious, but the two things that I ever wanted out of comedy was for people to think I was like a pretty cool guy and that I was funny. And that's it.
Okay.
That's all I need.
See, and that's weird because my whole approach since getting sober, because I've talked about like when I got sober and I was like,
Well, you have to have like ambitions. You have to have drive for
but
something.
that was the thing was, so when I got sober, I was like, so this is my life, working 2 jobs, going to the gym every day. And I called my sponsor like 3 months into it and I go, I'm going to kill myself or start drinking again. And that's
Yeah.
not an idle threat because I am someone who's, done stupid things in the past and been Baker acted and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I called him and I literally, with all the seriousness and earnestness in my heart, I go, I cannot live this life. I cannot do this sober thing just to be sober, just to work every day, just to fucking die.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing this. And he said to me, you need to find something that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And chase after that. Like you need to dump your anxiety and your ambition and everything into something. He goes, what about comedy? You used to do comedy. You love comedy. Why don't you start doing comedy again?
Yeah.
And that's when I started doing it again. But for me,
You need to excise expectation from that. You
Yeah.
just need to enjoy the process.
But see,
Because otherwise it's going to
that's
fucking
the
haunt
thing.
you and then it's
And-
going to be this weird... Because you have the sports thing in you where it
Yeah.
has to be this...
It has to be
It
the
has to be
best. It has-
affirmational at all
yeah.
times. It has to be the best. And it's like, that's not... that works for some people because you'll listen to like some of like... so this is like the... So you'll like see like interviews with like the greatest athletes or like some of the bigger comedians or something like that, and it's like the cringiest shit because they're just like it's all affirmational, it's all motivational
Yeah.
because that's all they have because that's the kind of delusion that it takes to maintain the facade of like this matters, and like when that matters like that, that's where success comes.
Yeah.
If you're able to luck into it, basically.
Well, and that's
so
the thing
once
is
you're
it's-
there, it has to keep rolling.
Well, and it has
and
to
it's
be
just gonna
totally
get getting bigger and bigger
that
because
luck
if
thing.
you don't have that, and if you don't see yourself having that, the easiest thing to do is to have no expectations and just approach it from like, so this is what me and Brian talk about because we book shows together all the time.
Yeah.
Or at least used to a lot more when, there were shows to book. It was never like, it was always like, of course, like have the best show possible, but it was like, I don't know if there's a distinction between this, but like, I don't just want like a good show. I want like a cool show.
Yeah.
I want like a cool show that people like will go like at like one of the house shows when we had like Dave Ross.
Yeah, that was fun.
And people look at it and go, that was really cool.
Yeah.
That happened.
That makes sense because
then people can look at us and be like, those are the guys that put on cool shows.
Yeah.
And we'll check out all the other shit that they do because we'll have like Dave Ross and we'll have the Mean Boys and we'll have, like Timmy and guys like that. But then we'll have one that's headlined by Christoph Jean, who's like a great Orlando comic that nobody knows
He's coming
about.
on the podcast.
He's fucking awesome. He's so fucking
I'm
funny.
so excited.
He has like a couple of jokes that I'm so incredibly fucking jealous of. The one where he's talking about
don't burn his material.
I'm gonna burn one of them where he's talking about like I was voting next to a mentally disabled guy the other day, and I was like, good for his mom that he gets that she gets 2 votes. It's just so good.
That is a good joke
because he's a one-liner that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, he's hilarious. But that's the weird thing, what you're saying about I want to be cool and I want to be funny. Because my whole thing was after all that stuff that had happened is I was like, my whole drive for doing comedy is to show people that like, yeah, sometimes things are going to get really shitty. And like, sometimes you're going to think there's no way out, but we can laugh about all this. And that's how I approach comedy is because of everything that's happened between the
you've had much more dire straits than I have, for sure.
So for me, it's one of those things where when I was in those bad places, those very bad, scary places, I always had comedy. There was always something I could watch that would make me laugh, even though I literally felt like I was going to die.
Yeah.
And so that's why comedy, and I have become so pretentious and so fucking douchey about it over the years, but it just became so much more important to me to where I was like, I don't care if I only make like $30,000 a year. I want to be able to get in front of people and show them it's okay to laugh at this kind of stuff.
You're douchey in a different way though, because like so it's like I'm coming from like a hipster place and you're coming from like a sports place.
Yeah.
Where like I'm like I just want to lay back and be like, oh, like look, it's like cool.
Yeah.
And you
want
to
be very
competitive,
competitive.
and
like,
you
no,
want to,
I write all the time.
You're like Lil Wayne, like at like peak Lil Wayne, where he's like, I'm a competitor. I expect the best. This is all a game. This is
and that's the thing is, and I talk about that with almost every comedian that comes on is. Like when you go to an open mic, and
I'll
you
do
see
5
guys...
minutes against you right now, bitch.
What?
I'll eat you alive at 5 minutes, bitch.
But you go to a show and you see, I'm a storyteller. I need much more than 5 minutes. And I develop and I exposition and.
Oh, comedian that only works at a certain amount of time. Very interesting.
I'm kidding. That's a joke. I can do 5 minutes for you. That heroin dick pic joke. That joke is.
That is good.
That's funny.
That's a banger.
But
is it water sports though?
No, water sports is by far the funniest joke.
Last time I did water sports, it did not hit, and I felt so bad about it.
Oh, I love that joke.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever written, but it's really, I think it.
I've burned it on here a couple of times.
Wait, you what?
I burned it on here.
God damn it, dude.
I really like that joke.
I think it's funny.
Fellow athletes.
Yeah, fella. The only problem with that joke is I can't think of a water sport. Because when I say like, oh, I'll watch TV and it's like a surf competition, it's like that sounds like Sean Spicer trying to remember how to say like the hair cuttery.
Yeah.
That sounds like Sean Spicer forgetting how to say barbershop.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that's the same thing like surf competition where it's just like you forgot how to say a thing. That's what it sounds like to me. Is that it's just like no, there's a way easier way to get to this. And I've thought about it for hours. And I'm like,
no, I like
nothing.
Surf competition.
Can't think of it.
Fellow athletes.
I like it.
That's my favorite joke of yours.
Thank you.
I love that.
It used to be Bloody Knuckles. That was the first one that ever hit for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was two skinny people having sex with each other. It's like the worst game of Bloody Knuckles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the line that like it was like the gross out line.
Yeah.
And that would hit. But my favorite part of that was always like if you saw me and my like skinny ex-girlfriend having sex, you'd be like, who took the Halloween decoration time and just threw them on the bed? It's so lazy.
Well, it's funny because you had a story one time that you were telling about having sex with someone who transitioned.
Yeah.
And I was like...
It's happened a couple times, actually.
Which, to me, was so...
I guess that's the point of the joke, yeah.
Well, it was
I haven't done that joke in forever. I forgot.
But it was crazy when you had first told it, because I was like, statistically, this shouldn't make sense. But I have a story about having sex with someone who then transitioned.
By my count, by now, I've had sex with 3... now trans men.
Yeah.
FTM. Yeah.
And I've one is mine.
Transition.
Yeah. But it's just
not that it matters, but
no, but
I figure I'd throw it out there.
But it was just so it's so because the circles that we run in and stuff, you meet very unique people.
Riverside, everybody's trans.
Well, that's the thing, and it's like you meet very unique people and stuff, and so like I'll have conversations with like some of my relatives, like brothers and sisters and stuff that live in like a regular like kind of Midwest, like
it's
quote,
not
unquote,
Riverside where either like 90% of people are like, it's like 90% of people are like hipsters that are cool with trans people, 5% are trans people, and then 5% are just Nazis.
Yeah.
But
it's weird because you talk to people who live in like what you would say is like a quote unquote like normal suburban area, and like
the one that you live in right now.
no, well yeah, kind of, but no, I'm talking about like in the Midwest and stuff, and like you.
Yo, I had to drive 20 minutes from my place. This is a suburb,
like I told
bitch.
I told the story because it's not really a joke. It's a story about what happened to me in rehab, and I had sex with someone, and then they transitioned.
I recall.
So the tag is, well, now I'm gay because I had sex with a man.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the tag. But like after I got off the show that I didn't date and that I bombed in front of my whole family, my mom was like, my mom was the one who was like, oh, tell that story, and I told it. People were coming up to me after the show like, did that really happen? And I'm like they had never heard of the idea of someone trans, and I'm like, oh, we're in the middle of fucking podunk nowhere.
Yeah, Dayton,
right
Ohio.
Now. Yeah, like these people have no idea what.
Yeah, for
and then
sure.
you go to Riverside, and it's like you said,
Yeah.
hipster.
Yeah, of course.
Nazi.
Yeah, somebody was like, I was at work today, and somebody was like, Trevor, would you suck on a girl's nipples if they were pierced? And I was like, I would suck on her dick if she had one. Like, what the fuck does it matter? It doesn't matter at all. But yeah, because it's like, when it is funny because like once it breaks down where it's like I've had sex with like multiple people that have like then transitioned to becoming like trans men.
Yeah.
Men. We'll just call them men.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what the proper nomenclature is, but I assume that they would prefer just men because they're men. And be like, man, am I gay? It's like, probably not, but also who cares and it doesn't matter. It's like, damn, when this shit starts breaking down, it's almost as if it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's almost like
it doesn't mean anything at all.
And that's so weird that
people are just people.
Yeah, and it's
sometimes they have sex with each other.
Well, and it's really cool too, just to like I said, to look in some of those old notebooks and see this kind of shit that I was talking about when I was 22.
Oh, you watch like the first season of Scrubs and they're like, haha, trannies. And you're just like, I felt like there's a better punchline for this.
Yeah. Well, and it's just so weird because it's like now I don't know if it comes with age or maturing or getting or whatever it is, but it's like you're saying, it's like, oh no, it's just like in the end it doesn't.
Who gives a shit? Literally, who cares?
But God, it's just so bizarre because you meet some people.
How dare they do none of my business?
Yeah, exactly.
Who fucking cares?
Some people are so cut off from everything.
So stupid. I tried to make a trans joke work so hard, and it's just like, but it is such like a touchy subject. It was obviously like in a positive way, but I feel like just saying trans like in a stand-up bit, and I'm not trying to be like cancel culture as well, because I fucking hate that. But like I did try and make a trans joke work, and it's clearly on me that it never did. But the idea was that trans representation in pornography has always been there to where it's like,
I remember this joke.
That's a joke, and fucking even like 90s comedies is like, I jacked off to a chick with a dick, and it's like supposed to be like ha ha ha, but it's also like, yeah, we all do that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah,
it's like not like the royal we. Yeah. I have, of course, because I'm a normal person. Yeah. But the royal we, it's like, oh, we.
I remember when you were trying that.
I was trying to. Where it's like the whole point is that it's like trans people per capita are murdered more than any other person per capita. And it's like, I wonder why that is.
God, I just got a weird deja vu because I remember you talking about all this stuff.
So the bit was I was trying to do this thing where it's like, I feel like the reason they're murdered more often is because like people like dumb like rednecks that jack off to like trans porn don't realize that they're actual human beings. To where it's just like, what do you mean they're in the bathroom trying to molest my children? They belong in the movies I hide from my wife that I jack off to.
I remember you doing that.
I could never find the right angle. I could never find the right angle for it. But
crickets. And I was like, that's a good joke.
It never worked, but I was always trying to find an angle for it because I feel like it's a truism where it's just like, oh yeah, sure. Like it's like a commodification of being trans where it's like, yeah, sure, it's good enough for pornography. But like when they start asking for rights, they're like, nah, you're just supposed to be jacked off to.
Yeah.
You either jack off to him or you murder him.
This comes back full circle to what we were talking about earlier about whether you're doing bits. The fact that you kept trying the bit means you are trying to say something. Yeah, because I have
trans friends, and I was like, I like ran that by a trans friend of mine, and she was like, no, it's good. Like, I don't know. Like, I think it's all right. Like, she had a little bit to it, but like, I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
I always tried to make that work. There's a few bits I always tried to make work, but that was one of the big ones. I'll still try it.
Yeah.
But that was one of the big ones that I wanted to try and make work. Because it's like, I feel like I'm known specifically in the local scene just for that one story, and that's about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. That's the one that people reference the most for sure.
Okay.
I guess water sports, I guess. But then
I
other
love
than that,
water sports.
other than that, it's
Well,
just.
because
Is it true that an old guy jacked you off? It's like, yeah, I know. Yes.
Yes.
It's funny because somebody asked me like if it's hard to remember the story. I'm like, no, because it happened.
Yeah. Oh, that's
I really don't have to embellish it that much.
when people come up to me about the scar story. They're like, "Did that?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Oh,
you
the
can see the
fucking-
fucking scar on
Yeah,
my
yeah,
forehead.
yeah.
Yeah, it's right here. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
I'm looking at. I'm also just now noticing that your nose is crooked.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Yeah, that's what happens.
I've
when
looked at your
the helmet
face.
comes down and hits you in the face all the
Yeah,
time.
I've looked at your face quite passionately for a while now, and I'm just now noticing that you got
I'm all sorts of
fucked
fucked
up
up.
ass nose.
Did you ever catch my arms?
Oh yeah, no, I see the arms, I see the guns.
No, I mean the scars all over.
See, I'm trying to like not intimidate you. I'm wearing long sleeves right now for people that are listening because I don't want to fucking flex too hard.
I
right
didn't
now.
even mean the guns. I just meant the scars that are all over them.
I am like I am going to the gym 5 days a week now, though.
Are you?
Hell yeah, dude.
You were doing the running thing for a while.
I'm still doing the running thing.
Kills
Yeah.
your gains, bro.
I don't really care about gains. I don't care.
Let me guess.
I'm such a scrawny.
Let me
little piece
just
of shit.
guess, just by looking at you.
Yeah, guess it.
147 pounds.
Last bitch.
I was gonna say 132, but I thought that was
135.
God, I thought that was too
Yeah,
small.
135.
And you're 6 feet tall.
6 feet tall.
Ugh.
Yeah. I know. I eat I fucking.
You
eat.
just have a fast metabolism. Probably
No,
got a big
it's-
old dick too.
Fast metabolism isn't really that's not really a thing.
Yeah, it is.
It can be, but like I just don't eat enough. Maybe that is
Okay.
fast metabolism.
It
Yeah,
is.
fuck
I was gonna
it.
say I eat like maybe once or twice, maybe a day, and I look like this
Yeah, that's true.
because my metabolism's so slow.
Yeah.
All right, let's get off weightlifting talk.
Yeah, it's all good.
Do you have any other stories that you wanted to share with us this evening?
Yeah, sure. Here. For a second. I gotta piss real bad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, if you just have to pee, I'm gonna keep it going.
Okay, go for it.
Just go right around the corner to the right.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, this has been a lot of comedy talk, but when you get two comedians together, that's what we're going to do, I guess. Yeah, I did embarrass myself quite a bit, and I still do to this day, thinking that because I do this dumb little show and have a few listeners that I'm, for some reason, on the same level as some of my comedic heroes. God, I regret that so much. It reminds me of that scene in Shawshank Redemption where they ask Morgan Freeman character if he's been rehabilitated, and he says, I just wish I could go back and talk to him, talk some sense into him, but I can't. That kid is long gone, and this old man's all that's left. That's how I feel when I think back on DMing celebrity comedians or comedians that I really like. Like, why would you do that? That was so stupid. I fucking mentioned that I had a sports podcast to a guest at my restaurant. I'm embarrassed just saying it. Embarrassed just saying it. So I'm glad Trevor came on. We ended up talking a lot about me doing dumb, embarrassing things. He's going to be right back. But he said he's just going to go to the bathroom, but I feel like he's going to get another beer. That's what I think he's doing. We'll do a couple more stories and then we'll wrap it up. Thank you all so much for listening as far as you have. He did go get another beer, ladies and gentlemen. I was right.
I did.
Beautiful. I know that was a strong stream you had.
Thank you. Can you hear it on the podcast?
Yeah, I think we caught it.
Really?
Yeah.
Impressive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Drinking story?
Yeah, what do you got?
I don't know. I think.
The Kyle Kinane one's going to be hard to top, but I like that one.
I mean, I could just do the bit
What
of
bit?
the guy,
Okay.
whole guy.
Oh, no, you don't have to do that one.
I mean, that was a story that happened.
That's true. That is a story that happened.
Maybe I'll come back to it. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know, because then none of mine are like exciting or fun in a way.
Everyone
where-
always says that, and then
Yeah.
they end up being really good stories.
So I remember there was this one where it's like before I was like actually a drinker, I didn't even like beer at the time, and so I went over to it was good buddy of mine Eric, who's a little bit older, and we were going over to my friend Adam's house because his parents were out of town. I was probably like 19,
Okay.
and I was bringing my buddy Richard, who is like not anything, like not a drinker, not a smoker, not anything.
Yeah.
And at the time, neither am I really,
Okay.
but had more experience with it than he does. But Eric and Adam, obviously a little bit older, they're big time. So we go
They're
over.
big time.
They're big time. So we go over to Adam's parents' house while they're out of town, and he lives on the complete opposite side of town, like 45 minutes away type shit.
Jesus.
Yeah, and so we ride over there, and it's just the four of us, and it's like, all right, let's get started. And so I'm like just swishing down a Miller High Life as best as I can, and then I realize that's like Adam made Hunch Punch, and I'm like, oh, this tastes good, because I can't drink beer at the time. So I'm like, oh, this tastes good. And Richard's kind of like, who's like half Asian too, so it's like metabolizing alcohol is already like not great for him. And so we're just like hanging out or whatever, and I'm just like hitting the Hunch Punch, and then he has beer pong set up. And yet again, this is so pathetic because it's 4 people in this huge house, and it's like, beer pong.
Yeah.
Because being 19 and 20 is awesome.
Yeah.
And so we're like, but we don't drink beer. Me and Richard are like, let's play beer pong against each other, but let's do it with the Hunch Punch.
Yep.
And so we start doing that, and it's like, it's Hunch Punch, so it's like you don't know that it's going to fucking hit you like a brick wall like an hour and a half from now.
It's so weird. We have we have 2 parallel stories now, because I did the same thing when I was like 18, 19.
Of course.
I was like, this punch tastes delicious, and I hate beer. Let's play it with a punch.
Exactly. So we start doing that, and then Adam, who's like a weed smoker, Eric's not. He's like such a fucking straight when it comes to that shit. Like I'm in the 70s. He's such a straight dude. I bet he voted for fucking Wallace. But like, he's like a fucking don't do that shit. So Adam's like, do you want to try and smoke weed? And I was like, and I'd never smoked before, but I was like, I'm feeling a little like, I'm like, yeah, let's try it. So I got outside, and it's like a fucking pipe with a like, so I'm like trying to hit it. I just can't, because I don't know to like take the thumb off to like take a hit of it. And so like I've been just burning it. And Adam's like, no, you have to take your thumb off. And I go, oh. And I just go, and I just like rip like half a bowl.
Oh, man.
And just like fucking cough for like 10, 15 minutes. And then it's just like, I'm not high. I'm not drunk. So I'm just like, oh, man, I'm somewhere in between all of this. And it's been a couple hours at this point. So I'm like, man, fucking, I like kind of like sit down on the couch, and Richard's like, hits it too, and yet again he's like not like, I'm not shit, and he's even less.
Yeah.
And so Eric just kind of goes like, I think it's time to go home. And I'm like, sure. We get into his car. I like get in the front seat, click the seatbelt, and kind of do that thing where you like lean over like oof like that.
Yeah.
Close my eyes, and then an instant later kind of like lean back up and open them, and I am in front of my house.
Jeez, you just blacked out?
Blacked the fuck out. And like, as I'm coming up, as my neck is moving from my left shoulder coming up, I'm like, I'm throwing up right now.
Oh, God.
So just launch out of the car, go around the side of the house, and I just throw up out of my nose and mouth.
Yeah.
What tastes like smoke. It's just smoke coming out of me. And yeah, I don't think I tried drinking again for a while after
Really?
that. Nah. No, it took a while. I didn't start like actually. You know what's funny is that like, I didn't even start drinking beer until I went to Vegas, which is a weird thing.
That is weird.
I had an ex-girlfriend that had very wealthy parents,
Yeah.
and so for her 21st birthday, and it's funny because he still like comments, like her dad still comments on like my Facebook shit.
That's weird.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, but yeah,
No, yeah, for
it
sure.
is weird.
My
We're on good, like me and the ex are on good terms, but
Yeah.
like it's just like the dad loves me.
my
still.
entire family is still friends on social media,
Yeah.
all social media platforms with my ex-fiance. And it's very bizarre.
Yeah, her
Because again, her and I, it was, amicable. She had to get out because I
Yeah.
couldn't stop drinking. But at
Oh,
the same time, it's like,
my ex got out because I was a fucking loser.
oh, really?
Yeah, I was just working at Walgreens and not going to school.
Yeah, mine was like, I can't. I've
Come home and fucking play XCOM.
yeah.
Yeah, that dates it a little bit. This is pre-stand-up, so this is probably like 2011 or 12.
Yeah, my
Come home from my shift at Walgreens, play XCOM, and drink 3 Bud Lights, and be like, damn, I'm tore up.
and she left. What?
She came home one day and was like crying, and I was like, oh my God, what's wrong? She was just like, I don't love you anymore. And I was like,
Oh man.
yeah, it was rough, but I honestly, like looking back on it, I really appreciate the honesty.
Yeah.
I really
for sure.
do, because she could have said anything, but it was just like, I just don't love you anymore. I don't feel anything like that anymore. And I was just like, even at the time, I like gave her a hug, and I was like, fair enough, man.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, no, I made the mistake of trying to be friends with her like immediately afterwards, and it was just like cut so hard.
Dude, that's
Yeah,
hard.
and I was like, dang it, all right.
'Cause,
but
like-
it didn't take as long as. So I've never been one to like if I'm in a breakup, it doesn't take that long. But that one for sure didn't take
Oh,
too
see,
long.
I'm the opposite. Well, you've heard my stand up. Like I'm
Yeah.
a psycho. I'm very, and I wouldn't say
I'm usually 1 foot out the door when a breakup occurs, anyways.
Okay,
that
so
was
yeah,
the
you're
only
ready.
one that ever like straight blindsided
that's
me.
well even
Like
with,
if something, I don't know how, but if something didn't work out with Megan and I would be like,
destroyed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and it's weird too because
I'd be like, I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. Well, and that's the weird thing is in my situation is I saw it coming because we had conversations about it. Like if you can't get sober and stay sober, then we can't. And they seemed like idle threats, and then finally it wasn't an idle threat anymore, and it actually happened. And that one was I tried to do the friends thing like right after.
Yeah.
Well, at first we thought we were going to get back together, and I tried. I held on to that for about like a year, and then I was like, oh, let's do the friend thing. And even a year after, I was like, oh, I can't.
But you were still trying though.
Yeah, and even a year after, I was like, oh, I can't do this. Like this is painful.
Yeah, I never tried to get back with an ex.
Yeah. I did for a while.
Maybe the first one, but that was like because
you're a kid then. Yeah.
Yeah, I started when I was 17. I was dating a 15-year-old.
Okay.
It was like one of those. It was like the very first one, lost the virginity, and we had nothing in common. The only thing we had in common is that we wanted to have sex with each other, and so it was on and off for like a year, and then it finally ended. And it was kind of like one of those things where it's like I wasn't very successful afterwards, like getting laid wise.
Yeah,
so I always kind of came back to that.
Yeah. Oh, I understand that.
Yeah, for sure. But other than that, for the most part, I think after a breakup, I only ever hooked up with one ex, and we only had dated for like a month, and then we hooked up, and then we like hooked up in the back of her car one time.
Well, it was weird because when I only dated one person in high school, like the similar situation to what
I was
you're
also,
talking about.
let me real quick. I was also a really big piece of shit until probably like 3 years ago.
Until you met Megan.
I mean, I cheated on most of my girlfriends.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, not fully, but like
I get what you're saying though.
I remember the one that blindsided me. I like was talking to a friend of ours on Skype, pretty explicitly. I was drunk, but it was also like I knew what I was doing type thing.
But it's weird because I've been in situations like when I got to college, I was like, I'm not dating anybody. I'm playing college football.
That stops once you realize it hurts people. Obviously, yeah.
But
I never even fucking. I have nightmares about getting caught for cheating.
Do you really?
Yeah, still.
God, that's like I have,
and it's like I've never even thought, like, obviously in the relationship I'm in now, I've never even thought about it, but I still have nightmares about it.
Yeah,
of like
that's what
I did a thing and I don't remember doing it.
I have drinking nightmares all the time. Where
really,
like my whole world is crumbling. Savannah leaves and I'm like wasted.
And there's
I wake up and I'm like, what happened? What happened?
Tom Segura's not answering your DMs.
Oh God! All right. God, I'm so embarrassed about that.
That's okay.
All right. Do you want to share that last story, or do you want to come back and share it? We're at 121 right now.
I'll share it quick. I'll share it pretty quick.
Okay, go ahead.
So, this is I won't do the stand-up version of it. I'll just do the real one. So, like when I was
just tell the real story, man.
I mean, it's not that different for the stand-up one because it's just the same thing, but without the punchlines. So it's gonna be way more boring. But no, so like when I was like younger, like so it's like. Not to like toot my own horn, but like I got, so like once I became like 20, I would say like 23, 24, I was like fairly successful with like getting laid or whatever, just because it's like you kind of figure out who you are, and it's like I figured out like how to like dress well, and
when
like,
you figure out the tells too, like
of course,
they're into me, they're
know
not
how to like
into me.
equivocate, you know, like can be like I don't know, I like think I'm like a fairly charming guy or whatever.
Yeah,
so I was like,
charming.
Thank you. So I was like fairly successful, but before that. It's like nerd from high school never leaves you, really. Yeah. And especially horny nerd from high school never leaves you.
Like Eminem says, you might not have a dog in the fight, but you can't take the fight out of the dog.
It's true. I also assume that he says other extremely wise things, but
he does. Like, how are you going to leave me and love him out the blue?
Man, Eminem, Jesus Christ, he's the Mahatma Gandhi of our time.
Hey. Kim is the greatest love song ever written. Anyway, back to your story.
The greatest love song ever written is What's a Really Hipster Answer? Naive Melody by Talking Heads. This must be a place. See, David Byrne says it's the only love song he ever wrote. But so when I'm like, I'm trying to remember how old I was for this. I was probably like 22, 23. This is how horny I was like, not only was I on OkCupid, I was also, which ironically is actually how I met my girlfriend now.
Is it really?
We hooked up so we actually went out on a date way back in the day, and it went really well. And I was like, "Oh, we should do this again." And she was like, "I'm actually moving."
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, and wow, that's bananas.
And then years later, I DM'd her on Instagram because it seemed like she was single, and we were just like, "We should meet up." And then it just ran from there. I'd like drive down to like to South Florida to like go meet her or whatever. But then, yeah, no, that's how that
Oh,
works.
that's so sweet.
I know, it was kind of nice because she was always the one that I was like, damn, like because I always like in my mind it always kind of came back to like that one girl. She was like really something. Like I was like I always was like,
Aw.
I know it's
You're gonna
really
make me fucking cry, man.
it's a dream come true, man. And she bought a house and I'm living in it.
You were gonna be the epitome of stay-at-home dad if she gets pregnant.
Oh, dude, are you fucking kidding me? I'm gonna be a great dad. You know what's funny is that we spent time. So I'll get back to the story real quick because I know we don't have that much time. We spent time with her sister and her family. Like she has 3 small children, and the youngest one, who's named after Khalil Mack. What's up?
Shouts out, Khalil Mack.
Yo, DOPY in my book.
Yeah.
Not this year, but occasionally he's very great. He looks at me, and since he sees me, a tall guy with glasses, next to my girlfriend, the only person that he associates that with is her dad.
Oh, really?
Just calls me Papa. And they fucking love it. They think it's the funniest shit where he's like walking around the house while I'm still asleep, and he's like, "Where's Papa?"
Oh.
He's like 1.
Yeah.
In fact, girlfriend tells me today, she's like, yeah, Lincoln's walking around the house just going, "Where's Papa?" And they showed him a picture of me. He goes, "Papa." I'm like, please don't do that.
That's
I'm
so
not.
cute.
It is. It'll be cute later, but for me, that's a lot of pressure, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's weird.
Grandparents got to buy a lot of shit. Uncles, they just show up every once in a while, bro.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
So I'm on OkCupid, and that's not enough for horny, nerdy me. I have to get to the real shit. So I'm on Craigslist, like personals.
Yeah.
And I'm trolling. Like I'm not posting, but I'm trolling them. And I see one, it's this older lady, and I'm like, she looks pretty hot, you know? And so I email her, and it's like we're emailing back and forth, and eventually this kind of leads to this whole thing where it's like I'm sending dick pics, she's sending me nudes, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And eventually it gets to the point where she's like, I'd love to like meet up, but like I just like want to feel kind of safe. And I don't tell us in the joke, but at the time I know she's married.
Yeah.
Because she's prefacing that where she's just like, oh, we just get weird with it. My husband's a lot older. He's not in good shape, so we just get weird with it.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, so I'll meet your husband for sure. So I go to a Hooters and I meet up with this old man. And yet again, in the joke, I don't know it's an old man, but in real life, I know it's an old man.
Yeah.
And like, I know because he is like, I'm buying drinks, I'm drinking while we're talking. And he's like, you know, you could tell that he's kind of horny for me too, where he's like, how can we kind of like make this work? Now, granted, this whole time, like, I've never met the woman. I don't even know.
Yeah, because you've only emailed.
Only emailed. I don't even know if she exists, but in my mind, she probably does because all the shit that he's saying is true.
Yeah.
Tells me his name, pays with the card, tells me what he does. He's a doctor at Mayo Clinic. Tells me his whole situation, which is
Shouts
like,
out, Mayo.
Shouts out Mayo Clinic. He's got a like a earpiece and like a deaf ear
Hearing aid.
Yeah, hearing aid. Thank you. And he's like, yeah, I don't have that much time left on this earth, and I'm just trying to get a little weird with it. And I hear that not only do you want to...
Was it a hearing aid or a cochlear implant?
I couldn't tell.
Okay.
Because I didn't know the difference.
Yeah.
So like thinking...
the cochlear implant's the one that they drill into the back of your skull if you're deaf.
I think it was a hearing aid.
Okay. And the hearing aid
pretty sure it's a hearing aid because he was, like I said, he's in poor health. And you could definitely tell.
He just wants to get weird with it.
He wants to get weird with it.
That's going to be the title of this episode. Let's get weird with it.
God. So all the things he said, because he pays with so later, this is fast forwarding, later in the night he pays with the card and then he goes to the bathroom. And I look at which is like a lot of trust on his part that I wouldn't just like swipe the card.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, there's a lot of trust being built here. And I look at the name on the card and I Google it on my phone and it all checks out. I see his picture on the Mayo Clinic website. I see everything. I don't remember his name, obviously. But I'm like, oh, this all checks out. Like so he is probably for sure telling the truth. As far as like if the wife exists, it's like probably, and it's like that's his lead in to also get involved type thing.
Yeah.
Because the entire time we're talking, it's 2 things. It's asking me what I need financially because he's like, I have a lot of money. And he's just like, well, how much debt you got? And I'm like, you know, at the time I'm like, oh, it's a lot. Like, it's like $800. And he's like, that's, yeah, it's like nothing. And so he's like, oh, I can wipe that out easy for you. And then also it's like, I've seen your pictures and I really like what I see. And it's him just trying to like cut in on it. And I'm kind of deflecting. I'm like, oh no, I've never really done that. I'm not that interested, because I'm still like eyes on the prize trying to fuck this wife that most certainly exists. And eventually it kind of tapers down and it's like kind of died down. Like the conversation, it's just like, well, all right, we'll talk in the future. It's like a business meeting. Like he's closing the briefcase and we're shaking hands, being like, we'll continue this. We'll do this later. So we're leaving. And he does pull a slick line. This is part of the joke where he's like, I'm walking to my car. He goes, what are you doing, man? And I was like, oh, I'm just going to drive to a friend's house. He goes, no, you got to ride with me. You've been drinking. And I was like, oh, you're right. I have been drinking. And I get into his car. And like 5 seconds after getting into his car, and we're driving, I'm like, I just got into this guy's car. Yeah. And so I'm like immediately looking at the locks. And they're unlocked. But I'm like, I'm waiting for like the little...
Yeah.
To be like, oh, I'm fucked. He's taking me to a secondary location. And he drives me down the street. This is off San Jose. So he drives me down the street and he pulls into a residential area and he drives slow next to this huge house with a bunch of cars in front of him. He goes, oh, that's my house. That's my wife's car. A bunch of her family's in town. They're all hanging out right now because it was around the holidays.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's cool, man. In my mind, I'm like, how did you get out of the house?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
To be like, yo, I got to get toilet paper real quick.
Yeah,
I'm really not
going out
trying to
for
have sex
cigarettes.
with that boy you've been talking to. Yeah. Because it's been like 3 hours we've been talking. And, so he finally like kind of, I mean, he keeps harping on it where he's just like, I really like, I can't express to you like I'm ready to go. Even if I could just watch, like I'd be super down for that. And I'm like, I'm not really into it. And we end up in another parking lot. And he's like, listen, I'm going to lay it out on the line for you. I'll give you $1,000 right now, cash. And he shows me the cash in his wallet. He's got like $3,000 in fucking 20s just piled up. And he's like, I'll give you $1,000 right now if you let me touch it. And I'm like,
yeah, $1,000's a lot. That's your whole debt, right? Like,
I'm like just sitting in the passenger seat. I'm like, okay. And I even told him, I was like, I'm not going to make any promises. I don't think anything's going to happen. And he's like, we'll see about that. Like, he got the eye of the tiger all of a sudden. He's like,
competitor.
I'll make these old hands work miracles on that penis. So he like shoves his hand into my pants and he is like, he's just kind of like, just fumbling it. And it's just not getting hard because it's an old man's hand.
Yeah.
It's an old man jacking your dick off. With the thumb and the index finger, he's trying to make the little guy work and turn into a bigger guy. He's like, come on, little buddy. He's trying to fucking work it. And it's like the line of the joke is that it's like, you have to like, it's like, strangers when you sit on your hand and you try and jack off with it. And if anybody's ever tried to do that, it feels like a guy with callousy hands trying to jack you off. It doesn't feel pleasant at all. Just like that. But with just like a raptor claw, because his skin is so tight to the bone and his nails are so yellow and sharp and they're just digging into all the wrong places. It's not getting hard and he's gripping with a full grip.
God damn,
so his fingers are reaching into not only his own palm, but like my soft dick. Yeah. So it's just, and he's just tugging and it's just, and he's really yanking it like it's a lawnmower and it's just not working at all. And eventually I have to be like, all right, cool down. Like I think
we're done here. Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna. I'm trying to be nice about it because I got the eyes on the prize, which at this point the wife doesn't exist anymore. I'm looking at the cash. You know what I mean? I'm like trying.
Prize.
I'm like, if I was even more of a gamer, I'd be like, let's go. Like maybe I will get hard. We'll go for 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but it's not gonna work. Even if even if it was like a thing where it's like I could get hard because it's a good person jacking me off. I just can't because of the nerves.
Yeah.
Because of the stakes.
Yeah, it's a
the
weird
stakes that
situation.
are there because it's a lot of money. I mean, like, I haven't been able to get hard with like girls that I want to have sex with because of the nerves. Imagine like $1,000.
Yeah, I couldn't do it
with an old man jacking. I couldn't do it. And so he's like, "Oh, is anything gonna happen?" Like, because he's thinking that he's like, I'm going to get him hard and then I'm going to blow him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, nothing's going to happen, man. I'm sorry. Like, I'm apologizing to him as if I'm like, oh, my bad.
My bad.
I'm sorry you can't suck my dick in the way that I told you I didn't want it to happen.
God.
And so he starts driving me back to the parking lot instead of murdering me, which is very nice
That's
of him.
sweet, yeah.
It's really considerate, honestly. He's a man of all seasons, you know? He's been around for all of them, literally all of them. He's so fucking old. So they invented seasons, and that guy was like, "Damn, I'm gonna have all 4 of these for a while.
Yeah.
So we finally get back to my car, and like the whole time he's just silent, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, I gotta find a way to like cut in and be like, stretch out and be like, so, about the cash that you got on you, buddy.
What about the money?
And I'm just too embarrassed to just even like bring it up.
Yeah.
So we get to my car, and he parks it, and he puts it in park. He kind of sits there and he goes, well, this has been quite a night. And I go, yeah, I think it has been. And he's like, so I'll send you another email. And I was like, cool. He was like, well, we'll talk. Have a good night, buddy. Call me buddy.
Oh, I hate that.
So weird.
I have a bit about hating that.
Your hand was on my penis.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you too. And I just get out of his car and just get into mine. And then I drive. And the entire time, like, fucking, like, yelling at myself, like, the fucking money! The fucking money! I'm
you
like,
didn't get the money.
Didn't get the fucking money. And I go to my friend's apartment because this entire time, this has been so sus that I've been texting my friend this entire time. And I finally go to the apartment where it's not his apartment, but it's like a party where people are hanging out at. And I go there. And, like, I'm never, on the way there, I'm like, I'm never going to tell anyone about this. I walk, and then it's like a 30-minute drive, so I have time to process it. At the time in the car, I'm like, I'm never going to tell anyone about this. I walk to the doors of the apartment, and I go, I just had an old guy jack me off for literally no reason.
Oh, man. Classic Trevor Johnson. We didn't talk about pedophilia, but one time on this podcast.
Yeah, we didn't. I tried to avoid politics and the fact that David Geffen is allegedly a pedophile ringleader.
Almost made it the whole time.
Almost made it the whole time. Look out for Steven Spielberg, too. Tom Hanks is in Grease for a reason. I'm just kidding. Tom Hanks is totally fine. And I'm glad that he recovered from COVID, and I'm sure it was his birthday recently or something, probably.
All right.
Yeah. That's about it for me.
Go ahead and plug everything one more time.
Yeah, sure. If I have shows coming up, I'll plug them, but right now I don't. But if you want to follow me on Twitter for really dumb Jaguar shit and, just dumb shit in general, you can follow me at Trevor Johnson. It's just Trevor Johnson with the T and the J switched, and that's about it for me.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you for having me on, by the way. It's been a long time coming. I had a lot of fun, man.
This is fun.
If we wanted to dig deeper into shit that's not us being embarrassed by being starstruck by other people, we could really do some damage.
God, I can't believe I did that.
It's okay, man. We've all been there.
Well,
You've definitely been there way more often than I have.
Yeah,
just numbers wise, you're way more pathetic than I am. Just want to put that out there.
I will have you back on. That's the good thing about still being in Jacksonville.
I love you, buddy.
Talk to you guys. I love you too, man. This was fun. Brennan T Comedy on all social media at Brennan T Comedy.
Shout out.
BrennanTComedy.com.
Yo, that's the boy.
For upcoming dates, I got shows in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, all coming up in the next couple months. So check out the website.
North Carolina, come on and raise up. Petey Pablo, what's up?
Yeah, take your shirt off, spin around your head just like a helicopter.
baby.
Come on, what you trying to come at me?
Yo, my man tried to be a freak leak over here.
Thank you again, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, cuties. Love you.